Well, hey, what is up, everybody? Super excited to be here for the first ever Firetime Network Power Hour. Grant, how you doing, man?
I'm doing so good, Tim. I'm excited to be here. I'm like the anticipation is killing me.
I know. We've been talking about this for a while, so we'll do a little bit of an intro as to how this got started, since this is the first one. For a long time in the Firetime Network, we have done happy hours, and they've been really fun. But what was getting difficult was trying to make sure that we were keeping things really intentional, and it kind of felt like as issues were stacking up and stacking up and stacking up in the industry, we wanted to find a way to like really proactively keep the community aspect, but also speak in a way that can give people solutions to these specific problems. How do you feel about starting out with Power Hour?
I love it. I think that taking a topic each month and kind of dissecting it with the community is exactly what we should be doing. And happy hour was that, but happy hour in the terminology doesn't have a lot of intentionality. And I think, kind of changing this to more of a daytime power hour with some intentionality is exciting. And we still can be interactive and invite the community in to help us out.
Yeah, totally. So hey, as people are listening to this, you can comment in. We're on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook right now, and we will address everything that we can on this. We can actually pull guests in as well. So if there's a question that you want to ask specifically, we can pull you into this conversation. Our heart is we think a lot about just like what is the Firetime Network. I think that at the end of the day, it is a community of people in our industry that want to get better. I mean, that's what it is. It's a group of us that want to get better. And our goal is for these power hours to be about the community. So going forward, we're going to be doing these every month. And, Grant, it'll be a lot of you and me, but I think the goal long-term is that we're pulling in other people to be guests and contributors and be making sure that we are sharing the best practices and giving voices to everybody in our industry.
Yeah, no question. We have a lot of experts out there, a lot of people that totally know what they're talking about in different avenues of their business or the industry, and we need to get them on here. So that's what's really cool about StreamYard and this new Power Hour is it's not just going to be about us, it's going to be about everybody sharing. The first few might be a lot of us, and also looking for feedback on different things that people want to discuss too. There's a lot of challenges we face, and we want feedback on the topics for each and every Power Hour moving forward.
Yeah, 100%.
Hey, Rachel.
Yeah, I know. Hey, Rachel, how's it going? I saw Noel there as well. Really good to see you guys. Keep commenting in, and we'll make sure that we get to everything. One thing that I want to say before we frame this, the goal of these power hours is authentic conversation, and this is like really 100% unscripted. So we're coming in with a topic and an idea, but the goal of this is to have a conversation. So as me and Grant discuss today's topic of how to make time to lead, we're going to have differences in things that we do. And you listening or, watching this may have differences as well. And the point isn't that we decide on like the way to figure out what's the one perfect way to lead myself and my company. Is to listen to a variety of voices and then make your own application from it. So the goal of this is to be authentic. It's to be an unscripted conversation. And I think the next thing, like, when we think about the title of this, of Power Hour, I think a lot, like one of the big things that is, I know it's true and it's continuing to change me, is the idea that power is in pouring out. It's not in consuming everything and hoarding it all for myself. That true power actually comes from pouring yourself out for others. And that's really what we want the heart behind this to be.
Very well said, Tim.
So, okay, as we get started here, first thing is that this is brought to you by the Firetime Network. So down below, if you want to join the Firetime Network community and be a part of these events and just have resources around you and people who want to help you get better in the fireplace industries, you can check out the website scrolled across the bottom of the screen. And Grant, I think that we had an item to give away today. Can you talk about that?
Tim. We have a lovely Yeti 20-ounce granite gray Rambler that we're going to be giving away at the end of this Power Hour, and we will ask a specific question at that time, and whoever answers it first and correctly is going to be the winner. We'll collect your information. We'll send it on over to you guys.
Get out of here. So you're going to hook him until the end.
Yeah, I think so. We need people
That
to
sounds like
stick
a good
around.
marketing plan. I like it. I like it. I like it. So yeah, so we're giving away the Rambler. We have a question that we've thought of. First person to get it is going to get that, and we'll feature you in the next issue of the Fire Time magazine as well with your Yeti Rambler. Okay, so as we get into this, Grant, I think that this topic is so relevant, right? How do we make time to lead as we do work with different businesses around and help out with the podcast and even run our own businesses? One of the big things is I know that there's things I need to do, but I don't have time. I mean, that's super tough. And so what I wanted to do today was just talk to you about, like, I mean, you're leading a big company. How is it that you make time? First off, got to give a shout out, Danny Kaler. So excited that you're here. Good to see you. And we hope that this gives you a ton of value.
Hey, Danny.
Grant, teeing it up. Let's just talk about, like, how do you make time to lead? Right now, you're running a business with what, 35, 40 people in it. There's supply shortages. There is the threat of unfair regulation, all these things. How do you make time to lead?
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult. And to be honest, the answer is there's never enough time. I want to kind of start with, my thoughts on a leader in, like, everybody that is watching this or is listening to us, like, as you're in your leadership journey, you're always wondering if you're a leader, and you're always learning how to be a better leader. So we always question whether we're a leader or not. And you lead through intentionality, through working on certain things that are important over urgent. But we always question it. I just want everybody to know you are also leaders. And even though you question it, just like Tim and I do, it doesn't mean you're not on that leadership path. Back to Tim's question on running a business and making enough time as a leader for everybody, it's impossible without intentionality. I think it starts with understanding yourself, Tim. We've talked about this many times. You have to be self-aware. You have to know what you don't do very well, and truly what you do very well. I think the intentionality of having a structured schedule, and that's what we really want to get to, a personal structured schedule with intentionality and some type of game plan on a weekly basis is absolutely key. As a leader that is running a retail business, you always feel like you don't give enough time to each and every department, each and every person. And the only way you can even remotely manage that and be there for them enough is through structure, through the utilization of a calendar.
Yeah. I mean, I think about this probably a year ago, we were in the Minneapolis airport, and we both, like, were talking about our own, ways that we try to lead ourselves. And we literally both use a template calendar, which like, that's been a newer thing for me over the last probably 2 years. I've started to do this, but it has totally rocked the way that I do everything. And I guess maybe we could back up real quick. We've already kind of jumped into leading ourselves, but I think it's this idea that, like, so there's a lot of things competing for my attention. There's always a part that's missing. There's always an installer out sick. There's always a customer that needs help. And those things are very real to running your business, but they never go away. They don't. And so I think that sometimes we feel like, well, if I could just batten down the hatches a little bit, then I can make time to run meetings or set goals or have vision. And I believe that's just not going to happen. Like, you never have time. The whirlwind's all consuming. And so it has to start with a fundamental decision of, am I going to lead myself? Because if I can't lead myself, I can't lead anybody else. I just think that it has to start there. We got to make a fundamental decision of, there's not a lot in this world that I control, but there are some aspects of my life that I do have authority over, and I have to start with the way that I lead myself.
Couldn't agree more.
Rachel says we all have time. It's just a matter of how you spend it. She's 100% right. I want to hit this idea of the personal calendar, Grant. So maybe we might do this. I guess we both have these template calendars. I'd love to hear about yours, and I can talk a little bit about the insight that I've had with mine too.
Yeah, so it's a journey, and this is where I'm at this point. It's been just a matter of utilizing a calendar is extraordinarily important. So if you find yourself not utilizing some type of Google or Outlook calendar on a regular basis, just start doing it. Just start putting things on the schedule. What I realized when I started putting things on my calendar is that I could say no more often. And leaders need to understand that we have to let fires burn. Sometimes it's important over urgent, and we have to say no. But it's hard to say no when you don't see everything that you have to work on. A calendar allows you to see it. The template calendar is really important because as a leader, you have a ton of different things to do, whether it's tending to people, whether it's reviewing numbers, performance, whether it's having an understanding of marketing, like in our business. There's all these different entities of your responsibility. And how do you consistently work on those and get somewhere? The template calendar, it keeps me focused every week. And what we mean by a template calendar, Tim, you know this, but I'll share with others, is you don't schedule specific things, but you schedule topics or themes of what you're working on. So like every Tuesday at 11, I do an inventory review. I work on our sales and I work on our orders. Every Monday at 11, I do a walk around of the showroom and warehouse and put together project lists. Monday also is a day to work on our marketing and planning that out for the next month or year, just working on it. And it's little chunks at a time. It's not 2 hours of marketing work. It's 20 minutes worth of investment, but equalizing my time for my teams and for my jobs. That template calendar really allows for that to be a reminder to you to stay on task.
Yeah. So for me in my journey, probably a year and a half ago, I actually hired a mentor, and he's someone that I've known and have trusted for a long time. And we spent just a lot of time and effort going through my calendar and going through my email inbox and going through my priorities. And one of the things he recommended a book that's called What's Best Next. And it was a really good book about just like priorities and managing yourself. But what kind of came out of it for me was on my template calendar, I don't template every hour of every day, because like you can't plan your life that way. It just doesn't work. But what I do is I have specific blocks, and in particular, like the two most important things for me was just categories. And for me, the categories are meetings and projects. So like meetings, right? This is time that I've got set aside to meet with team members or vendors or whoever it is. Like I've got these blocks in my calendar set aside for meetings, and then I have blocks set aside for projects. And the way that I define a project is it's something important that needs to get done and only I can do it. And depending on the space that you're in, you may not be able to block that much time for projects, but I guarantee everybody can block 2 hours a week. Like you can find an hour, on Tuesday and an hour on Friday. But and even for meetings, like the meetings honestly was the biggest change for me. Was what used to happen is when someone would write me and say, hey, can you meet about this? I would look at my calendar and I would see, well, okay, I've got 10 minutes in between this and this, so I can do a quick phone call. So okay, I can meet tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or I would say like, oh well, okay, we need to meet for an hour. I could try to get out of this meeting early, and then I've got like 45 minutes. So if I can cram it, I think I can do it. So I'd book it. And I'd be tripping all over myself, like overcommitting and not doing anything well. And what I have on my calendar now is I've got like 2 solid blocks of time. One of them is on Tuesdays and one of them is on Thursdays. And it's just blocked out. It's basically like 4 to 5 hours each of those days. And it's just called meetings. And so if someone says, can you meet? In general, the first thing I do is I go look at my dedicated time for meetings on my template calendar. And then I open up my real calendar next to it so I can see where the template for meetings is and then what I actually have. And I'll see if I've got time for meetings available. And it's been amazing saying, yeah, I can meet on Thursday, or yeah, I can meet on Tuesday. And every once in a while, I got to say, you know what? I can't meet for a couple of weeks. Even though technically I can move things around and do it on a Friday. Well, that's not the meeting time, right? The meeting time is when we've set it. And of course, with you as like the owner of this, like you can make an exception if there's a true emergency or if you need to move something around. But by funneling your general work into these buckets, it frees up your time. And sometimes people are like, well, if I'm meeting with sales reps or meeting with a team member, they can't conform to my meeting times. It's amazing how how life actually can conform to it if you can make a couple of like decently sized blocks.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I mean, it's I see Danny saying I feel like a fireman and putting out so many fires. And Danny, I can relate. And sometimes you do have to sacrifice that time. Like, and it's okay that you sacrifice that time. As you were saying that, Tim, I was making some notes, and we have to remember that we have a finite amount of time and an unlimited amount of ideas, an unlimited amount of problems, unlimited all this stuff, but only a finite amount of time. And something I say to myself a lot to remind myself that I only have so much time is either I say no up front or I say sorry on the backside. Because if you say yes to everything, you're going to disappoint people. There's not enough time. You can't do it all. So a schedule and it being pre-planned to a certain extent really helps you kind of organize the ability to say yes when you can and no when you can't, but it's only a week out, which is so hard to say sometimes, but we have to say it.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So for people that are watching this, so Grant, it sounds like on your template calendar, you're a little bit more specific than me. Like I'll even just let me just share my screen. I'll share my template calendar. I think I can do this. Hold on. Just a sec here. Okay. So like if I go here to my template calendar, you see this? Like it's really, really basic. I mean, I don't have a lot of things on it. On Mondays, I want to try to have 2, blocks for projects. 2 hours in the morning, hour and a half in the afternoon. Now I've tried to grow into that. It hasn't happened instantaneously. Tuesdays, right? I've got a meeting block, 6:30 to 9:30. A couple hours for projects, in the middle of the day, lunch, and then end of the day projects. And I found that in general, if I can have my template calendar budget, 60% of my day, that's a win. And I don't always follow through with it. Like things come up and I make changes, but by planning that way, it allows me to know where to direct stuff as opposed to just taking on more and more. And another thing, we can go here in a second. I know that you're big on this, is actually on like a daily basis, calendaring your tasks for the day. So that way, like in the morning, you calendar your tasks and someone says, hey, I need you to do, oh, there you go. Yeah. I need you to do this. And you can look at your tasks and decide either yes, and I'm going to choose not to do something else today, or no, but I'll take care of that on a different day, or no, I'm just going to let that fire burn. It's not going to get done. Can you talk about, maybe we could just move into like on a daily basis. So if you've got like a template calendar in general, this is where I want my meetings to go. This is where I want to, spend 20 minutes on marketing. This is when I want to walk the warehouse. That's great for a template. What do you do on a daily basis to stay focused?
So I'm very manual in how because I've done it basically the same way for the last, I would say 10 years. So I showed my notepad. This is just a graph paper notepad. I've used the same notepads forever. I love the college rule, small squares. I generally have like small projects, certain performance-based things, and then investment-based things. And then I'll have the things I have to get done and the projects I need to be working on as a reminder. And I'll basically mark, and I always do check boxes, which seems weird, but it gives me a sense of like accomplishment.
You get that dopamine hit once you check that box.
Oh man, like, yeah. And I'll add things even if they're not on there and check them off, but it's really important to look back at every day. And what I've developed a system, and this is where it's super manual, is this is dated the 14th. Tomorrow I will start over and I'll rewrite everything unfinished. And by rewriting it every day, it's ingrained, and I don't forget. Well, I take that back. I do forget, because I actually take all the old ones, 30 days old, every month, and I go back and I make all the notes that I didn't get done, everything that I didn't get done, and I try to create a priority list for that next month. But you have to have some type of task or action notepad every single day, because your calendar is not going to cover everything. Like Danny says, we're putting out fires. There's urgency to all this stuff, the season, the customers, and we have to attend to it. So you have to have time, but it has to be prioritized as well.
That's super good. Let me share what I do. So I believe in calendaring every day as well. We're actually going to be doing this in the Fire Time workshop coming up here in a few months, but uh, every day for me, I've got like a daily rhythm that I go through, and you can see like this is totally all like, you know, ripped up because this was the one from last quarter and it goes everywhere I go. So like it gets shoved into pockets and shoved into backpacks. I've got a nice clean one here for this quarter and it's about to just be destroyed as I go through the quarter. But for me, every morning I've got like a rhythm of when I start my work day, and I go through like a cycle of short meditation. I read out loud what is true of me. I've got 4 stories that I believe are true of me that I want to continue to live into. And then I read out loud the long game of my career. And by long game, 5 years out, next year in my career, and the next quarter. And so we're starting like big picture meditation, right? What are the words that I want to be meditating on that help shape my day? And then we move into what's true of me. Who am I, right? This is where like you can speak your reality to yourself. Like if you tell yourself you're not a leader, you're not going to be a leader. But if you can speak reality over yourself, it actually does change you. And then you move into where do I want to be in 5 years, in 1 year, and next quarter. And then based on all of that, the second to last part says, what can I do today? So I'm trying to start big picture and then work my way in. So I make my task list based on that. And as I make my daily task list, I have like a digital software tool that I use that helps it sync between my phone and my computer. I literally have to, everything that goes on my task list for the day, I calendar it on my real calendar, not my template calendar, but my real calendar. And if I'm going through adding stuff and there's not enough room, I got to take it off my task list. And maybe I'll finish ahead of time and be able to pull something back on. But I would say for me, most of the time, projects take longer than I think, not less time than I think.
That is for sure. We've been working long enough to know that.
Yeah. But yeah, so for me, that's just a helpful way to keep me grounded. And the calendaring every day is such a big deal. You very well may be in a position where you're not able to calendar most of your day, but every day there's going to be like 2 to 3 things that you have to get done, and those have to go in the calendar, and you got to fight like mad to make sure that nothing inhibits that.
And I think it comes like, I think that I knew organization and time management was something that I wasn't the best at. I'm a gut person. I can be emotional. And I knew that time management and organization was something that I had to work on. And that's where the emphasis comes from. There might be people out there who have other things that they need to work on, and time management isn't the biggest thing. But for Tim and I, time management has been basically the end all be all for us to run our businesses as well as be able to build the Fire Time network. If I didn't have a calendar or some type of structure to my week, I feel like this already, but I feel like I would be letting people down left and right. And that's just not a position you want to be in as a leader.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think one of the mistakes is thinking that if I set up like a template calendar, again, like let's just say for anybody listening, just take like either 2 or 3 days a week and budget 2 hours for meetings, and just try anyone that asks you for a meeting, try to book it during those times. I'm telling you, 90% of them will go during those times. So just start there. But it's easy to think like, oh, like I've got this framework, but I can't stick to it. Or, I calendared my day and I only got half the stuff done.
Okay.
I just look at dude, you got half the stuff done. Like, that's awesome. And the fact that you have a template calendar and and on a daily basis, you're looking at actually how long will things take, and you're trying to stack your day up that way, that changes the way that you think. And it gives you a framework to know when something's off. Like if you go 3 months and you haven't had a single day where you get everything done, that tells me one of 2 things. Either I am pointing the finger at myself because I've been in this boat. I'm putting too much on my plate. I've gotten 3 months. I haven't gotten everything done in a day. I got too much on my plate. Yeah. So that means that I either need to just say, no, these things aren't going to get done, and I'm going to live and die by those consequences. Or I say, I need to really invest some time in delegating or finding somebody to help me with this. Those are the only options. But without the framework, you got nothing. You can't calibrate. You're just stuck banging your head against the wall.
Yeah, wondering how to fix it with nothing, no ability to fix it. And that's what the calendar or the structure or the framework, that's what it allows you to do. You identify, I have too little time and too many things to do, but you can rearrange, reassign task, whatever you're spending too much time on, you can look at it and you have all the information. It's like showing your work in high school math. Like you have all the information to look back and say, how did I get here?
Yeah, I want to go to Danny's comment that he made a little while ago. It's hard to know what fires to let burn. I sometimes feel like a fireman at a 5 alarm fire. Yeah, I do too. I know exactly what you mean, and I think like I heard there's a really good podcast out there called Think Like a CEO. It's with Gary Keller from Keller Williams Realty, and it's tremendous. And one of the things that he talks about is he's like, to think like a CEO and be effective, you just have to be okay not getting everything done and not making everybody happy. You got to be okay with it. If you're caught up on everything, you're not doing anything well. And he doesn't use the phrase, at least I don't think he does, like letting fires burn. But Grant, that language is so appropriate. You have
Oh
to
yeah.
make the decision to let fires burn, period.
Yeah. You have to be confident, even though it's an extremely insecure scenario. I think of Danny, like, I mean, today, you're putting out fires. Yesterday, you're putting out fires, and that never stops. It never stops. You'll always be putting out fires. I would say that the thing that I have found solitude in is a structured schedule with my teams on a weekly basis to solve problems permanently that we run into through the week. A structure, whether it's personal or team wise, having a structure with meetings that you talk about all these fires, that you have time unemotionally to speak about the cause, allows you to solve those problems permanently. If we're just in the whirlwind, going from bid to bid, install to install, customer to customer, we never allow ourselves to learn from our mistakes. And it's almost like the mistakes are never okay because we're always emotional when we're dealing with them. The structure of meetings and the consistency to it is absolute gold in putting out those fires. And over time, you have less and less fires to put out. I still have fires. There's no question. But I can't tell you, every Thursday I'm solving installation problems that are going to remove and reduce the amount of fires we deal with. And that is absolutely powerful, but you'll never get rid of them. And I want you to know, like, as you do this, like Tim was talking about, putting meetings together and feeling like, gosh, I can never get these going. I still feel like that. 3.5 years into weekly meetings, and I'm still trying to be like, okay, how, like, we didn't do it right here. I still am trying to get better at it. That is okay. There's this dip when we start something new that we tend to go through and give up right before we're about ready to get on the other side and see its successes. And I would say it's a process, but having a structure with maybe just a weekly or bi-weekly meeting and a way to document those fires allows you to solve them, to solve
Yeah.
those problems.
I mean, here's what I'm thinking about. So this is probably 4 years ago. I was in a spot where I think I was running 2 showrooms at the time, and our sales team was doing all of the in-home visits for our in-home previews. And there's good things and bad things with that model. One of the good things is that you can move really quickly and you can get out to houses and lock it down. The bad thing is that your salespeople are setting up your installers for the install, and salespeople usually are not installers. And so we're having this disconnect between needing the speed and loving the convenience of being able to have people out there so quickly, but finding the thoroughness and the attention to detail of, really making sure that the scope of work is being captured properly. And so what I chose to do at that time was I chose to actually let the fire burn of training the salespeople on installation. And instead, we went all in on a digital unified job walk form. And we spent like a lot of time on this, building it and refining it and training to it. And we let it burn that, like, we could have trained the salespeople, individually with the installers and made an effort towards that. And that is a great thing. Like, this is what's so hard, is that when you let fires burn, you got to let fires burn in good things. But as I thought about, like, where are we trying to go? If we have a job walk form that every time it's completed, I get a copy of it and our installation manager gets a copy of it, we can correct a lot of mistakes on the back end. We could even call them and say, hey, you need to go back out and take this measurement, right? If we have a job walk form that specifies you need this, 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 and this, we need these pictures every step of the way, that will solve a bigger problem long-term than individually taking 3 months to train this salesperson, then individually taking 3 months to train this salesperson. And that was an example for us where we chose to let a fire burn. I can think of, countless other examples. But thinking about that, Grant, like, how do you prioritize what fire is going to burn?
Wow. I think it's situational. I think that being intentional about what you're doing, understanding where you're trying to go, allows you to prioritize. But I think prioritization is probably like one of the biggest obstacles in leadership. Truthfully, I remember my dad hands the reins over and I'm like, what do I work on first? I think the most important decision you can make is to work on something, and then start to figure out how to prioritize. Now, today, I would say you have to set goals. Where do you want to be as a team or as a company? And then you build based on what your priorities are to get to that goal. Those are the things you want to work on first. When I took over the business, it was a fireplace business. It was a spa business. It was tanning beds, billiard tables, and we had barbecues and fireplaces and all those things, of course. Well, I knew that was too many things for us to sell. And I didn't understand all those things. And why did we sell those things? By a quick analysis of our business on a month-to-month basis over the year, I realized I needed to put my eggs in the fireplace basket and I need to spend time there. That's as granular as I'll get. But I had barbecue reps calling me. I had, barbecue sales that were going down. And guess what? I didn't even worry about it. It wasn't on my goal list. It wasn't where I thought the business, and granted, I'm happy with that decision. 2.5 years later, once I got kind of the fireplace figured out, I realized, okay, barbecues do have value. What is the value? Bringing people in. So then I attack that, but only a few things at a time, I think, is really important. There's a million great ideas and none of them are really wrong, but we can't pursue all of them. And having a goal allows us to kind of prioritize those ideas. Are they aligned with that goal?
Oh, dude, I'm just thinking now, I called you 30 minutes before this call with a business idea where I was like,
oh, you totally did, dude. And I was gracious, I think.
Yeah. Oh, you were totally gracious. I had this awesome business idea based on an experience I had today. And I just called Grant. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, we could do this. But what did we say? We said, not this year and not next year. It's in the hopper, but not this year, not next year.
Yep.
Yeah. One thing I think too, and Danny, I'm curious to see what you think about this. I believe that it is really hard to lead in isolation. And I'm curious if anybody watching this, you can put it in the comments if you want. Like, do you ever feel isolated? Like, it's just me, like they say, it's lonely at the top. And when it comes to like knowing what fire to let burn, I really think that having a community around you that understands your priorities is a big deal. Like, for me, Grant, like, you're somebody that, like, what my priorities are. And we have a lot of conversations about, like, does this fit in with the direction of where we're going? In my company, Wi-Fi, one of my good friends, Matt Bradley, works with me there. And we have a daily touch point call where we review our priorities for the day. And then that also leaks into like the week and the year. And the only way, like, I will run anything I touch off the rails without community around me. I just will. Like, I'm too headstrong. I've got too many ideas. I think that I can do more than I can. And like, I will single-handedly destroy an endeavor by myself unless I've got people around me to help keep my priorities focused and remind me of what's important. So I think that, whether it's a spouse or even somebody that works for you on your team, man, if you can start to share your priorities with them, number one, it's gonna make them feel a lot of ownership and actually want to step, further into your company. But it's a way to hold yourself accountable to, am I staying focused on the things that I need to? And again, going back to, like, for me on a daily basis to have this like 5-year, 1 year next quarter, I have to ask myself every day with this on my to-do list, does this set me up to be where I want to be next quarter and next year and in
Yep.
5 years? And that, the more that we can think about that, the better. Danny, does that help answer the question? I love this comment about meetings. This is so good. So
Meetings are not
that.
easy. Yeah. I mean, Danny, they're tough, and creating a structure is extremely difficult. But there is, I would say the best advice is stick with it. There's no perfect way to do it. And that is remind your team that that's the unemotional time to solve problems you can't solve outside of that meeting place. And we are actually, and I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag, Tim, but we are actually, the next power hour is going to be specifically about meetings, whether they're stand-up, weekly, store, individual meetings, all the meetings we're going to talk about, Danny. So we look forward to kind of diving into that a little bit more next year, or next week, next month.
Next month. Yeah. Maybe you'll be here next week. I won't be. Rachel, I love this. I attend a weekly women's leadership call. Having space to connect with like-minded leaders who are at similar points in their career and leadership journey is affirming and motivating. That's the truth. I mean, if you think about this, like, so, I mean, and we both know Rachel really well, like, she's crushing it, but I mean, this is a very, like, our industry is a very male dominated industry. And I would imagine that to be a woman can sometimes feel lonely, and especially to be younger and to be dealing with, a lot of different factors, to every single week be chatting with people that understand your perspective and may either be behind you or ahead of you in the career game, in the wisdom and experience game. It's affirming and motivating. Like, they say that in 5 years, you will pretty much be the same person, except for the books you read and the people that you hang out with. So, like, if you surround yourself with people that aren't trying to go anywhere and, don't care about much, like, that rubs off on you, I think that's really wise. And Rachel, that's awesome that you're doing that. Danny, I love this comment here, with the Fire Time Network and others, I can confide in, it makes a huge difference. That's incredible. And that's what we want the Fire Time Network to be.
Yep.
We've talked about this in the past. I was actually going back. We get this video of me and Grant from like 2 years ago in my bonus room that I'm in here. Grant flew out here so that we could go work on some promo stuff right as we were launching the Fire Time Network. And my sister videotaped us just talking about the heart behind it. And I was actually going back to watch some of those videos, and like, a lot of it was just saying, we want a community that's bigger than us, that can help each other grow. And it's cool to see that, like, bit by bit, all of us together are beginning to be able to foster that. That's awesome, Danny. I want to move on to something else, but I do want to ask that question. Does that help with kind of just thinking through how to prioritize, right? Thinking about it in light of where you want to go and having community around you, just to ask, like, hey, am I spending my time on these things? Does that help? Want to say what's up to Aaron Watson. So good to see you here. I hope that you're doing well. And let's go into this. I'm curious, Grant, because I do it. I guess I'm stacking the deck because I've got a list of things. We're talking about all my stuff first. Do you do a weekly review?
Like a weekly review of my task and my duties?
Yeah. Yep.
Like ahead of time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So every Sunday evening, basically, it just depends. Sometimes it's 4 o'clock. Sometimes it's 10 o'clock. I will review my task list from the previous week, my calendar from the previous week, and I will lay out and just make sure that my week is all planned out. I think going into the week, Monday morning, as crazy as Mondays can be just in general, but going in with a plan removes so much anxiety from me and allows me to be a better leader. And so, and honestly, Tim, and we've talked, when I get all squirrely and out of sorts, it is literally tied back to me not spending that hour and a half on Sunday prioritizing and getting everything figured out for the week or 2 weeks. It's every Sunday you build on your calendar, you build on your schedule, but you really sure up the week that you have in front of you. And I cannot tell you how powerful that is for someone like myself who has a good amount of anxiety.
Yeah. I agree. This is a habit that was given to me by Michael Hyatt. He has a planner. I've got one here, I think. I'll get it in a second, called the Full Focus Planner, that I used for years and years and years. And that was so foundational in helping me start to get control where I could have control. And one of the things that he talks about is a framework for a weekly review. And I do mine on Sunday nights in general. Sometimes I'll do it Monday morning, but in general, I do it on Sunday nights. And Grant, I'm the same way. Like, if I have a week where I just feel like I'm in the blender and I'm not getting anything done, I guarantee you it's because I didn't do a weekly review on Sunday. And thankfully, I don't know, in the past year, there's only been a couple weeks where I haven't done that, but you start to build that muscle. And for me, well, let me just look at mine here. I'll show you what I do. So every week, here's a weekly review. This is from September 27th on my notepad. On Sunday night, I ask the question, where did I win? And I just write down like 5 areas where I won. And I mean, like, I'll read you some of these. Like, where did I win this week? I knocked out 4 podcast episodes. That's a win for me. Like, I'm stoked on that. I'm diabetic, and I got a medical test called a hemoglobin A1C. My results were really good. So that's where I won this week. We implemented a price increase framework that was built in for Wi-Fi to make easy price increase adjustments for manufacturers. Had a great Sunday with my family. Had a fun date night with Jess on Tuesday. So like, I look back at my calendar, I look at my task list, and like, where did I win? Like, we should celebrate our wins. Like, don't just go through your week and be like, gosh, what did I even do? Like, cherish that and say, like, this was a great week. Okay, so where did I win? And then section number 2 is my big 3. I have a big 3 for every week. So on Sunday, I have to write down my big 3 from that week and then mark, did I do it or not do it? Then the next section is what worked and what didn't. So, just bullet point out like what worked and what didn't, right? So, I mean, this might be vulnerable reading this. I'm just going to do it. I haven't looked at this ahead of time. Okay, what worked and what didn't this week? Here's the first bullet point. I was ultra focused with everything going on, and I had tunnel vision on my immediate projects. So that worked for me. Now, sometimes that focus actually destroys me because I stay so focused on a few things other things that I should have gotten done, I didn't. But that was something that worked that week. What didn't work? The saved cart project, it's a Wi-Fi project, took forever. I didn't anticipate that. And then the next thing that didn't work that week, I didn't communicate regularly with this team member. So just a few bullet points. What worked, what didn't? Just that evaluated experience is so powerful. Okay, so we've gotten through where did I win? What's my big 3? What worked, what didn't? Number 4, what will I start, stop, improve, or continue? Again, just bullet points. Okay, I'm going to start doing this based on everything I've talked about. I'm going to stop doing this based on everything I've talked about. You know what? I need to improve this, or I'm crushing it. I just got to continue doing this. And then finally, I make my big 3 for the upcoming week. And that takes me it probably takes me an hour or so to do. But for me, like, my brain is literally so disorganized. I have to have the structure of those 5 things in front of me, or I'm just crippled. I can't do anything.
Well, we're all in autopilot. You're bringing yourself back to a baseline of understanding what you did last week, appreciating it, feeling grateful for it, and then also recognizing what you didn't do so that you learn from it. And it's gold the way you put it together there, Tim.
Well, it's not me. It's Michael Hyatt. Like, that's 100% him. And yeah,
that's
he
gold,
is
Michael.
Yeah, that's gold, Michael. If you're listening, it's really, really good. Okay,
hey, I got a question for you. I'm going to ask you a question.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So I think you know my answer to this, and I'll probably share a little bit of my answer. But when we encounter a leadership, when we're in a responsibility where leadership is a part of what we need to do, what is the hardest part, do you think, about being a leader or being in a leadership position? What are the most difficult things?
Facing the fear that you're on the hook and accountable.
It's up to you. I agree. I think that that's actually funny that you say that, because the two things that I have is fear and then what do you do? Like,
Yeah.
what do you do as a leader? And I just want to share what I believe you do as a leader, and I kind of fall back on these things, and I'm hoping these can kind of stick with some people. So, first of all, when you're scared, you're on the right track. Tim and I talk about it all the time. And truthfully, we should run towards fear, not away from fear as leaders, because we're the ones there to put the fires out. I believe that during COVID, the leaders were exposed. And when we go through these trying times, I think you're seeing the people that understand leadership, and they're the people that ran towards that fear. But more so, what do you do as a leader? What is your responsibility as a leader? And I am very passionate about this, because I think it comes down to two things. It really comes down to two things. How do you inspire people to follow you? And how do you also hold them accountable?
Yeah.
They actually are pitted against each other. And I just wanted to speak to that, because I think, truthfully, a consistent system of accountability is also how you inspire them. We have weekly meetings where we go over performance, investments, and hot topics. And when we go over a performance, let's say we fall short, we learn from that. We don't get mad about it. We learn from it. When we win, though, we celebrate it. And I think that accountability actually can be inspiring, because you have employees, people that follow you, winning every day, and we never acknowledge it. And they start to get resentful. They start to get tired. They start to get moody and bite back at you. And it's literally because we're not inspiring them and celebrating their wins. We don't have to go rah, rah, rah and get them this and get them that. We just have to say thank you, and you're doing amazing, on a weekly basis. And that's where the meetings and the scoreboards we can talk about next week come in. But I truly believe, if you're a leader, you need to think about, how are you inspiring your team and how are you holding them accountable? And actually, they're kind of the same.
Yeah. Well, it's a really good question about, like, yeah, what's the hardest thing? And I think that, like, we just got to be honest and say it's fear. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about this a couple podcast episodes ago in our 100th episode when I read the article The Journey. But, like, I mean, I wrestle with fear constantly, like on a daily basis. And the muscle is like, fear's not going to go away, but the muscle is to, like, say, well, okay, is this fear telling me that I'm going to die? In most of the things that I do, the answer is no. You know, and usually that fear is because, hey, you might look stupid if you do this and it doesn't work. Or what if people find out that you're a fraud? What if you do everything you want to do and it's still not good enough? Like a million, and whether they're rational or irrational, like, we all fight fear, and it's every single day. So I think to be a leader means that you gotta step into that fear and be on the hook. Because, like, when we set the example, well, whose fault is it when something goes wrong?
Yep.
Like, it's mine.
Yep.
And we were talking about this with the Fire Time magazine the other day. Like, as we're working with companies to advertise with us and things like that, when they choose not to advertise with the Fire Time magazine, whose fault is that?
Yep.
It's not theirs.
Yep.
Like, it's our fault, right? We're the ones that are on the hook. We're the ones that are putting
Yep.
this out, and it means that we're not painting a picture or giving enough value or whatever it is. So I think it's easy in today's society. Like, you look at, like, politicians in our society. Like, who was the last one to say, I made a huge mistake and I'm really sorry? Like, it's 100% my fault. It's not going to happen, right? It's always somebody else's fault. No one wants to be on the hook for anything, but to be a leader is to be on the hook. And I'm not saying there are politicians that do an amazing job, but, like, painting with a broad brush in the American context that me and you live in, we will do anything to make somebody else the scapegoat. But what that means is that no one actually leads anything, because a leader is someone that is able to put themselves on the hook.
I love it. I love that terminology. I think it's great, because you do. That's exactly how you feel. You feel on the hook in every turn. I mean, setting the example, as Jerry said in the comments. I mean,
Yep.
You are on the hook, and you're always observed, and you're always being judged. And leaning
And here's
into
the
that
best part: like, when people judge you, and someone might be like, "Oh, Grant, like, you should do it this way or you should do it that way."
Yep.
whatever it is, like when you put yourself out there and someone chooses to like judge you or make a snide comment or anything like that, it's like, okay, well, you're not on the field. I mean, like, why don't you get out on the field and see what it's like? That's fine. Like, you're in the stands, you can make comments. That's fine.
Yep.
There's a difference between being in the stands and being on the field. When you're on the field, like, game respects game. So we might have differences, but I guarantee you I'm going to approach my difference with you differently, knowing that we're on the field in this together, than me in the stands, not on the field, just making like pop shot comments at you.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, I want to hit something because I want to circle back to the theme of this, which is how do we make time, right? So we've talked a lot about intentionality, setting yourself up, things like that. One of my core beliefs is that if we want to make time, we actually have to involve other people and public acts of accountability. Like, literally, my life is like this public acts of accountability because it's the only way that I can get things done. So just really practically speaking, in one of my companies, Wi-Fi, we have a daily touch point meeting. So our whole team is remote, but every day at 8:45 a.m., we have a touch point call. So every day we're gonna touch base on our priorities, on our big three for the day, on what's important, on what's not. And that is my way of making time to lead. Like, I just booked it. We're gonna meet every day for 15 minutes. And that forces me to be accountable to it. We have in about 2 weeks, our whole team is getting together here in Portland to go through vision, core values, and the mission of the company, and then also talk about our key areas of responsibility with each team member. And like, getting that in the books forces me to have things ready to talk about with vision, with accountability, with purpose. If you don't do that, like, good luck finding time to come up with the vision of the company. It's amazing how necessity is the mother of invention sometimes. And I think that we can actually use that to our advantage.
Totally. I love the example of setting a meeting and actually working towards that meeting, because I feel like in order to prioritize and hold myself accountable, that's what I have to do. I have to have 2 weeks and know that that's coming, or I won't prioritize it.
Yeah.
And that's just human nature.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole reason that when you go to sell something, you put a promotion on it. The promo's only good for 2 weeks. Why is it only good for 2 weeks? Could you make it 3? Well, I could, but you wouldn't make a decision if it's 3. Like, it's 2 weeks and that's it, And it's just the way that we work as people. Like, we need a sense of urgency to make appropriate decisions. And so I think as a leader, one of the things that I like to do is when I'm thinking about, like, we need to do this and this and this, I basically need to start putting things on the calendar. Like, I'll reach out to you and be like, hey, Grant, I've got this idea. Can we meet about it next week? Or, hey, Matt, here's a good example too of like, okay, this is going to be a little bit of a rabbit trail. I'll try to make it quick. But me and Matt Bradley, one of my team members on Wi-Fi, we're like really, really good friends. But in addition to that, we were calling each other constantly about like little work things, like 10, 15-second phone calls. Hey, checking in on this. What do you think? Okay, perfect. I'll do it. Bye. He'd call me. Hey, Tim, I'm going to do this. Like, I think this is the right move. What do you think? Bye. And as we started talking about it, we're like, well, that's always pulling us in different directions. So what we actually decided is that we would set up a regular meeting. And for us, we chose 1 hour, 2 days a week. We call it our issues meeting. And the question is, like, if I'm about to call Matt, I got to ask, could this wait till the issues meeting? Mm-hmm. And so far, everything has been able to. Yeah. But just those little, like, 10 seconds here, 10 seconds there, calling you, it takes your brain so long to refocus on what you were doing. That's been a way for me to help buy some time back. If it's an emergency, we call, we figure it out. But on a lot of those little things, just it goes back to the idea of a template calendar, right? We've got the template meeting of our issues meeting these 2 days a week. And the other day, we didn't have any issues, so we didn't have the meeting.
Yeah. Urgency is the disruptor. I mean, the constant battle is focusing on the important over the urgent, and it's not that urgent isn't important; it's that urgent is inconsistent. So
Yeah.
what you're doing there is you're focusing. You're knowing the issues are important. You're allotting 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, however much time. And what's crazy is you're not even making the phone calls, but you're still solving the problems, and sometimes not even having the meetings. But that's where urgent disrupts everything.
Yeah.
And we can justify every urgent decision, but by putting that meeting together, you work through it a little bit differently, and you have time to focus on it when you have it's scheduled because it's important.
Yeah. Final concept, then we're going to wrap it here. Jim Collins has a amazing concept he writes about, and it's the idea of building clocks, not telling time. So let's say that something urgent comes up. An installer calls you in the field, I'm missing a piece of pipe. That's urgent. What do I do with it? Somebody calls in sick. A customer calls upset, right? These are urgent things. We have the choice. I can stop what I'm doing, jump on it and fix it because I'm the only one with the knowledge. I'm the only one. No one can do it quite like me. I'm the only one that understands how the supplier works. I got the most free time. So if we do that, we're telling time. That would be like someone calling you and saying, I don't know what time it is. And you saying, okay, I'm going to drop everything. Let me drive to your job site. Okay, it is 1:55 p.m. And then you get in your car and you drive back to where you were. That does not work long term. But instead, we want to build a clock. So as people keep calling you, hey, what time is it? What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? Your job is not to say, oh, it's 1:55, it's 1:56, it's 1:57. Your job is to say, let's get you a watch. And that will take time to build a clock. You can't do that instantly. But that idea of becoming a clock builder, not a time teller, I think can really give focus to what should you let burn and what should you spend your time on.
Yeah, I love that analogy. I feel like it's exaggerated so much so that it just makes the point powerful. And it's not easy to do. And there has to be some intentionality, some structure. And that's what we've talked about. I mean, realistically, we know we only have a certain amount of time. And to make time to lead is actually, you're going to have to leave some stuff off. Yep. Thinking about it from that perspective of more of a clock versus telling time, I think helps you understand kind of how you have to get there and what is important and what maybe would be classified as urgent.
Yeah. So here's the hope. This conversation, honestly, it's pretty unscripted. We had a couple of things written down that I knew that Grant did as part of his cadence of making time, and we hope it's given you value. Your guys' comments are incredible, and the only way that we can figure this out is to do it together. But I think that the hope of this conversation is that you can go make your own application, right? Based on the comments or based on some things that Grant said. What's one thing that I could do differently? Maybe it's I'm gonna work on like a template calendar for my meetings and force sales reps. I'm telling you, force sales reps to meet on your schedule. You are the customer, not them, right? And I love sales reps. And as long as you give them notice, they will absolutely accommodate to that. Whatever it is, we hope that this makes you say, yes, leading is a priority. Yes, I will make time for it. And now I have some practical steps to do that. In the comments, let us know if this accomplished that. And Grant, let's jump into the giveaway.
Sounds good. So we are, for those of you who were not here at the beginning of this and have been so patient and waited till the end for this awesome giveaway, our question is wood stove related. So our question, and it's a reminder, first person that comments the right answer will be the winner, and we'll announce it almost immediately. So what test method is required when a wood stove is tested to 2.0 grams of emissions or less? Go.
I know we got some wood experts on this call.
We have to have some people that know that answer.
Yeah. What test method is used for a wood stove that has to be 2 grams or less per hour? Ooh, okay. It's an EPA method. Yes, it is. There's a
there it is.
Okay, there we go.
Danny.
There we go. Danny Kaler, Crib Fuel.
Good
job.
So just Danny, to clarify,
Go
ahead. Yeah, Danny's already won. He's a two-time giveaway winner now.
All right. All right. I love it. I love it.
Nice job,
Well,
Danny.
yeah, good job, Danny. We'll make sure to send that to you. Hey, if this has been valuable for you, Rachel says I know, but I don't want to take it away from the group. If this has been valuable for you, and you want more of it, we are actually going to be doing a Fire Time Network workshop in 2022. We're going to be doing an East Coast and a West Coast workshop where we're going to take 3 days and do a deep dive on what are the ways that we can run our business most effectively. And we're going to do one in Seattle, Washington. We're going to do one in Lee, Massachusetts. And then we also have an online version if you're not able to go in person. And Grant, I mean, we've been stoked for this, right?
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. I feel honored to be able to do this. And I feel like I wish something like this was around 10 or 12 years ago, because the 10-step execution that's been put together, and the whole terminology of passing that baton to your teammate is just, it's something I'm so excited to share. And I think people are going to get a ton of value out of it.
Well, the way it started was that as we've been going out to work with businesses, we had very similar issues in different parts of the company coming up. And it just hit us like a ton of bricks, like maybe 8-9 months ago, that these are all holistically connected. And the 10-step execution process, from the time a customer comes into the showroom to the final installation and even sending the thank you card afterwards, it's a process that you can master for your business. And we are super, super excited to get to share it. So thank you to those of you that have already signed up. We're super excited to do this in 2022. And before we end, we got to make sure that we pump the next one of these, that we're going to be doing this again November 4th. Mark it in your calendars. We'll announce it beforehand. November 4th at 4 p.m. Eastern. And Grant, this is all you. You don't have time not to run weekly meetings.
Yeah, I cannot wait to talk about it. I cannot wait. I mean, and for everybody, if you're in the same position as a hearth retailer, I want to talk with you. I want to share stuff with you after we talk about this next week. There's agendas and templates that I'd be more than willing to share, because I think weekly meetings are the end all be all for you to go from treadmill operator to a Pathfinder or peak performer type leader. So I'm super excited to talk about it November 4th.
Yeah. So we hope this has given a ton of value to you. We're trying to keep it right at an hour. Thank you for being here. The work that you do matters, and we are super excited to see you again soon. Peace.